Hello, everyone. I used to think camping alone was peaceful until I realized something out there could be watching. There is something about the woods, something you can't explain, and if you stare into the dark for too long, the dark will stare back. This happened to me quite a bit ago, but I'm going to try to keep it as detailed as I can make it. I don't even know exactly when it started, which is probably the worst part about it, because if I could point to a specific moment, like a sound or something I saw, then at least I could tell myself that was where things went wrong. But the truth is, it felt more like something that had already happened before I noticed it. Like I had already made a mistake and just hadn't realized it yet. Anyways, I remember checking the trail map on my phone and noticing that I had drifted a little off the marked path. Not by much, just enough that the trail wasn't as clear under my feet anymore. More scattered, more broken up, I guess, between patches of dirt and leaves. And I told myself I was fine, that I could just correct it by heading slightly left and I would reconnect with it in just a few minutes, which is something I had done before without any issues. But this time it didn't work like that, not at all. I kept walking and adjusting my direction, trying to find something recognizable. Anything that looked like the trail again, but instead the trees started looking the same, too similar, like I had stepped into a part of the forest that didn't want to be navigated. And even though I still had my phone, I still had a general idea of where I was, there was this quiet feeling, I don't even know how to explain it properly, that was building in the back of my mind and I was not moving the way I thought I was. I stopped for a second and looked around, just to get my bearings, and that was when I heard it for the first time. It sounded like a footstep, but they weren't mine. Just one somewhere behind me. Soft enough that I almost ignored it, but clear enough that I couldn't completely dismiss it either. And I remember turning around slowly, not expecting to see anything, just reacting out of instinct more than anything else. There was nothing there, just trees and shadows, and the same quiet that had been there the whole time. I honestly didn't even know what to expect, but sure. I told myself it was nothing, probably just an echo of my own movement or maybe something falling in the distance. But after that, I kind of started noticing something else. Not every time, not constantly, just sometimes. There would be this slight delay, like I would step and then a fraction of a second later I would hear another step that didn't quite match the rhythm of mine. And once I noticed it, I couldn't stop listening to it. So I tested it. I stopped walking and for a moment everything was completely still. Then, just as I was about to move again, I heard it. One more step, right behind me, where literally nothing was, and I kept looking to make sure. That was when I felt it. That shift from mild confusion into something sharper, something more focused. Like my brain was finally catching up to the situation and realizing that whatever was happening, it wasn't normal. I turned around again, faster this time, my eyes scanning the trees more carefully, looking for anything out of place, anything that could explain the sound, but there was still nothing. No movement, no shape, no sign that anything had been there at all. And yet, I knew I had heard it. I didn't wait after that. I started moving again, quicker now. Not quite running, but definitely not walking at a relaxed pace either. Just trying to get back to the trail as fast as possible. Because even though I couldn't see anything, the idea that something might be following me without making any visible movement was enough to make me want to just get out of there. But there was a big problem. The more I moved, the worse it got. Because now the footsteps were clearer. Still slightly off from mine, still just delayed enough to feel wrong, but louder and closer. Like whatever it was had adjusted to my pace and was staying just far enough behind me that I couldn't see it, but close enough that I could hear it if I paid attention. I have tried stopping again, and again it stopped too. I just don't understand what it was. Then, after a second, one more step, closer than before. I didn't turn around this time. I didn't want to see it, because up until that point, as long as I couldn't see anything, I could still pretend there was a chance I was imagining it, but I had a feeling that if I turned around and actually saw something, that feeling would be gone completely, replaced with something a lot worse. And we know what. So I kept moving, and then I realized something else. The forest wasn't changing. I don't mean that in a vague way, I mean it literally, like the trees around me, the arrangement of them, the shapes, the spacing, it all started to look exactly the same, no matter how far I walked. Like I was moving through a place that was repeating itself, or worse, not moving at all. And I don't know, I slowed down, my breathing getting heavier now, my focus shifting from finding the trail to just trying to understand what was happening. And that was when I made the mistake of looking back. I didn't see a body, not fully or clearly, but I saw enough. There was something there, between the trees, not standing in the open, not fully visible, but partially hidden, like it was always just behind something, just out of direct sight, and the part of it that I could see didn't make sense. The shape of it too narrow, too stretched, I don't even know, like it didn't fit properly into the space it was in, and it wasn't moving. It didn't need to, because the moment I saw it, I understood that it had already been moving this entire time, just not in a way I could follow. I turned back around immediately and started running. This time I didn't try to stay calm, didn't try to think logically, I just ran, pushing through branches, ignoring the uneven ground, focusing only on getting as far away as possible, because whatever that thing was, I knew I didn't want it getting any closer than it already was. And behind me, I could still hear it. Not running, not chasing, just walking, step after step, always matching me, always behind me. I don't know how long I ran like that, but eventually I saw something ahead that made me slow down. A trail. Clear, defined, exactly the way it should have been. I almost laughed when I saw it, I have to be honest. That sudden rush of relief hitting me so hard, it made my legs feel weak. And I stepped onto it without thinking, turning slightly to follow it in the direction I knew would lead back to where I had parked. That was when the footsteps stopped. Completely, no delay, no extra step, nothing. But I kept walking, my pace still fast, I was still panicking. My eyes forward, not wanting to look back, not wanting to risk seeing that thing again. Especially now that I had found the trail, because as long as I stayed on it, I felt like I had some kind of control again. Then I heard something that made me stop. It was my voice, behind me. It sounded exactly like me. Same tone, rhythm, whatever you want, even the slight breath at the end of the sentence. I didn't turn around. I couldn't, because now I knew what it was doing. It had been following me, listening and learning, I don't know, and now it was trying something new. Hey, you're going the wrong way. Closer this time, still my voice and perfect. I wanted to stay there for a second, frozen, my mind racing, trying to decide what to do, because every instinct was telling me to turn around, to respond, to react, but something deeper, something more instinctive was telling me that if I did that, if I acknowledged it in any way, I would lose whatever small advantage I still had. So instead I started walking again, faster, ignoring it, not reacting, not answering. And behind me it tried again with my voice, and this time it sounded almost impatient, and I don't know, I just kept walking. The trail stretched ahead of me, clear and steady, and for a moment I thought I was going to make it, that whatever had been following me was losing interest or maybe couldn't leave the area where I had first encountered it. Then the trail curved slightly, and as I followed it, I saw something that made my stomach drop. Footprints, all on the trail, fresh, matching mine, but they were ahead of me. And I slowed down, my mind struggling to process what I was seeing, because there was no way for that to be possible. No way for something to be behind me 1 second and ahead of me the next without me noticing. Then I heard it again, right next to me, using my voice.
Found you.
I didn't run this time, I literally couldn't, because I finally understood it hadn't been following me. Not really. It had been placing me, moving me, keeping me exactly where it wanted me. And the trail? The trail was never leading me out. It was leading me deeper, into something that already knew me, better than I knew myself. I want to share something that happened a few years ago. I chose a campsite because it was far enough from the main trail that I knew no one would accidentally wander into it. A small clearing hidden between thick clusters of trees where the ground flattened just enough to set up a tent. You know, and at the time it felt like the perfect place to be alone, completely removed from everything, but now I understand that being truly alone is not always what it seems, because sometimes the absence of people just leaves room for something else. The hiking had taken longer than expected, mostly because the trail gradually faded into something less defined, more of a suggestion than a path. Until eventually I was just moving between trees using the map on my phone and a vague sense of direction. I'm quite bad at directions, and even though I had planned for that, there was still a moment where I considered turning back. A brief hesitation that I ignored, because I had already come too far to give up over something as small as uncertainty. Anyways, by the time I reached the clearing, the sun had already started to sink lower in the sky, the light thinning into long shadows that stretched across the ground in uneven patterns. And I moved quickly, setting up my tent, gathering wood, and starting a fire before the darkness fully settled in. I'm kind of scared of the darkness, because I wanted everything ready before night fell. For a while, everything felt normal. The fire burned steadily, the air cooled gradually, and the forest settled into that familiar quiet that comes after sunset, where the sounds change but do not disappear, shifting into softer, more distant noises that blend together into something almost calming, I suppose. I remember thinking that this was exactly what I needed, that being out there, away from everything, was going to clear my head. And the first time I noticed something was wrong, it was because of the tent. I had set it up facing the fire, the entrance angled slightly so I could see the flames from inside without having to open it completely. And after finishing my meal, I stepped away for a moment to gather a few more pieces of wood from the edge of the clearing, only a short distance, not going too far away, maybe 20 or 30 feet at most, just far enough that the firelight didn't reach me completely. And when I came back, the tent was open. At first I thought I had just forgotten to close it, which seemed reasonable enough, because I hadn't been paying much attention, but something about the way it was open felt off. Not just unzipped, but pulled wider than I would have left it, and the fabric stretched slightly, like it had been moved more forcefully than necessary. I stood there for a moment, staring at it and trying to remember exactly what I had done before walking away. replaying it and replaying it in my head, but nothing felt clear enough to be certain. So eventually I shrugged it off and closed it again, zipping it shut and returning to the fire. I didn't think about it again until later. The night had fully settled by then, the fire burning lower, the darkness pressing in from all sides in a way that made the clearing feel smaller, more contained. And I was there, watching the flames, when I heard something behind me. Not loud, not sudden, just a small, deliberate movement. I turned quickly, expecting to see an animal at the edge of the clearing, maybe something drawn by the smell of food, but there was nothing there. Just the outline of my tent and the trees beyond it. Then I noticed it again. The tent was open. Again. I don't understand. This time, I knew I had closed it. I remember doing it clearly, pulling the zipper all the way to the end. I can remember that. Making sure it was sealed before the temperature had started to drop, and I didn't want the cold air getting in later. But now, it was open. Exactly the same way as before. I felt a small knot of unease tighten in my chest, the kind that doesn't fully register as fear yet, but makes you more aware of everything around you, every shadow, every sound, every movement, and I stood up slowly, walking toward the tent, with a cautious hesitation that I couldn't quite explain, and when I reached it, I didn't open it further. I just looked inside. Everything was exactly where I had left it. My sleeping bag, my backpack, my flashlight, all undisturbed, no signs of anything being moved or touched. And for a moment that almost made it worse, because if something had been inside, if something had gone through my things, at least there would have been evidence, something concrete, to explain what was happening. But there was absolutely nothing. Anyways, I closed the tent again, making sure the zipper was fully sealed this time, and then I stepped back, my eyes lingering on it for a few seconds longer than necessary before I turned away. I told myself it was nothing, that I was just being paranoid, that I needed to relax. Then I heard it again. That same soft movement behind me. I turned instantly this time, faster than before, my heart beating a little harder now, my focus sharper, and for a brief moment, I thought I saw something near the tent, a shape low to the ground, pulling back into the shadows as I looked, but it was gone before I could be sure. I didn't sit down again after that. I stayed standing, watching the tent, watching the trees, listening to the forest as it seemed to grow quieter, the natural sounds fading until all that remained was the faint crackle of the fire and the occasional shift of leaves in the distance. Minutes have passed that felt like hours, or maybe longer. It was quite hard to tell actually. Then the tent moved. Not opened, not unzipped. Moved. Just slightly, but enough that I could see it clearly, the fabric pulling inward for a moment, as if something inside had shifted its weight, pressing against the walls before settling again. I felt my breath catch in my throat as I stared at it, my mind racing to find a reasonable explanation, an animal, maybe something small that had gotten in somehow, but that didn't explain how it had opened and closed the tent twice already. And then, slowly, the zipper started to move. From the inside. I didn't move, I couldn't. I just watched as it slid down a few inches, then stopped, then moved again, uneven, hesitant, like something unfamiliar with how it worked was trying to figure it out. The opening widened, just enough, and something inside shifted. Not stepping out, not emerging, just moving closer to the opening, pressing against the darkness within, a shape that didn't match anything I recognized, too still in some ways, too deliberate in others. And I took a step back, then another, my eyes never leaving the tent. Then the zipper stopped, the opening remained, and for a long moment, nothing else happened. And then I heard it. A sound from inside the tent, not a growl, not a breathing, and it was a voice. My voice. It was quiet, soft, uncertain, exactly the way I had sounded earlier that day when I had tested my voice in the empty forest, calling out just to hear how it echoed between the trees. My chest tightened as I stood there, my mind struggling to process what I was hearing, because there was no way, no possible way for something inside that tent to sound exactly like me. But it did. Again. Slightly clearer this time. I shook my head slowly, taking another step back, then another, the instinct to leave, to get as far away from that place as possible, growing stronger with each sound. But something held me there, something that felt like fear mixed with disbelief, like I needed to understand what was happening before I could react. The tent shifted again, the opening widening just a little more, and then slowly something began to come out. Not all at once, not fully, just a hand. At least, it looked like a hand at first, the shape roughly correct, fingers long and thin, pressing against the ground as it pulled itself forward. But as more of it emerged, the proportions became wrong, the joints bending slightly too far, the movement too smooth, too controlled, like it was copying the idea of a hand rather than being one. I turned and ran. This time, I didn't hesitate. I didn't look back. I just ran toward the direction I believed the trail was in, pushing through branches, ignoring the uneven ground beneath my feet, focusing only on getting away, as far and as fast as possible. Behind me, I heard it. The zipper closing, and then footsteps, following slow, matching my pace, and every few seconds I heard it speak, using my voice, calling out into the darkness. I didn't stop. I didn't slow down. I kept running until I found the trail, until I was far enough away that the forest became something distant and unreal behind me. And I never went back. I never tried to retrieve my things. But sometimes late at night, when everything is quiet, I think about that tent, about the way it opened, the way it moved. And honestly, I can't shake the feeling that it wasn't breaking in. It was practicing, learning how to get out. And one day, it won't need a tent anymore.